Okay, so picture this, you walking into an interview for a complementary therapist role, feeling totally confident and ready to just blow them away.
That's exactly what we want to help you do today.
We're going to deep dive into how to ace that interview using some actual role catcher guides.
Yeah, we're going to cover the profession itself, the key skills, and even some of those really tough competency-based questions.
Sounds good to me.
What's really cool is that more and more people are looking for holistic approaches to healthcare now.
Right, it's not just about treating symptoms.
No, it's about understanding the connection between the mind, body, and spirit.
It's like this movement towards people taking charge of their well-being.
Exactly.
And the Bureau of Labor Statistics actually predicts a 13% growth in this field by 2029.
Wow.
So it's not just a really fulfilling career, but it seems like the job prospects are looking pretty amazing too.
For sure. And that's where RoleCatcher comes in.
Oh yeah, tell me about that.
Their platform is seriously like a goldmine of resources. They have career guides, sample interview questions, and even AI tools that help tailor your application to specific roles.
It's like having a secret weapon when you're looking for a job.
Right.
I especially love the Get Discovered feature. Employers can actually find you based on your skills and your experience.
It's like having a recruiter working for you behind the scenes.
Exactly.
So speaking of being prepared, let's get into some of those interviewing questions you might encounter.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's start with a classic. How did you become interested in complementary therapy?
Ooh, good one.
I actually remember struggling with that question in my very first interview.
Oh, I bet.
How should someone approach that without sounding super cliche?
I think the key is to just tell your story authentically.
Okay.
What sparked your passion for this field?
Right.
Was it a personal experience or a belief you've always had, or maybe you gradually realized how powerful holistic healing can be?
Yeah.
Just make it personal and real.
So instead of just saying, I've always been interested in helping people,
Right.
you should dig a little deeper and talk about a specific moment or experience that really made you decide on this path.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to talk about any doubts you had at first. Because overcoming those doubts and discovering how amazing complementary therapy really is can make your story even more interesting.
Okay, so let's say someone was inspired by their grandmother's experience with acupuncture.
Okay.
Could they say something like, my grandmother had chronic pain and nothing seemed to help. Then she tried acupuncture, and it was incredible. It wasn't just her pain, it was her whole well-being that improved.
Yeah.
That's when I knew I wanted to help people in the same way.
That's a really great example because it's personal and evocative and it shows a genuine connection to the field.
Right.
And be prepared for follow-up questions too.
Like what?
They might ask, what specific therapies are you most drawn to? Or how has your understanding of complementary therapy changed over time?
Oh, so they were trying to see how deep your interest goes.
They want to see your journey.
Okay, next question. What formal training have you completed in complementary therapy?
Okay.
That one seems pretty simple, but is there a way to make your answer stand out?
Of course, while you want to be clear about your qualifications, don't just list them off.
Okay.
Explain what each qualification involved and maybe highlight a specific area you focused on or a course that really had an impact on you.
I see.
For example, you could say, I have a diploma in holistic health practice where I learned a lot about anatomy, physiology, and different therapeutic methods. I then specialized in aromatherapy and completed a really challenging certification program.
So instead of just listing credentials, you're painting a picture of your expertise.
Yes, and be ready for follow-up questions about your training too.
Like what kind of questions?
They might ask, tell me more about your experience with a specific therapy you mentioned, or what were the toughest parts of your training?
So be ready to give specifics and really show off your practical skills.
Exactly.
All right, next question is all about keeping up with what's new in the field.
Okay.
How do you stay up to date with the latest developments in complementary therapy?
Right.
Now, RoleCatcher actually has a whole section on this, doesn't it?
They do, and it's so important to stay current in any field, but especially one that's constantly changing, like this one.
Yeah.
Think about professional journals, conferences, workshops, online forums, anything that helps you stay on top of your game.
And RoleCatcher's AI can actually suggest relevant resources based on job descriptions.
Right. Yes, it can actually point you to specific journals or training programs that employers are looking for.
That's so cool.
So you're not just staying up to date, you're focusing on what will make you stand out to potential employers.
So instead of just mentioning a few things, you could say, I'm an active member of the relevant professional association, and I regularly attend conferences, like mention a specific conference.
That's perfect.
That shows you're really engaged in how the field is evolving and that you're serious about professional development.
Right. And they might follow up with something like, What's a recent development in complementary therapy that's caught your eye?
Oh, it's a good one.
Having a specific example ready shows you're genuinely interested and that you take the initiative to stay informed.
Okay, let's get into a more practicable question.
Yeah.
How do you assess a client's needs and develop an appropriate treatment plan?
All right.
This is where you really show that holistic perspective, isn't it?
Absolutely. Walk them through your process of gathering information.
Okay.
Things like in-depth consultations, reviewing medical history, understanding their lifestyle, and considering their emotional and spiritual well-being as well.
And don't forget to mention how you explain the treatment plan to the client, right?
Yes, very important.
You want to make sure they feel heard and understood
Yeah,
and like they're part of their own healing journey.
for sure. And RoleCatcher's AI can actually give you feedback on this too.
Oh, really?
It analyzes your answers and suggests ways to highlight that you're client-centered and that you provide really individualized care.
So it's not just about what you know, it's about showing you have those soft skills too.
Right, things like empathy and communication.
What are some follow-up questions they might ask about this?
They might ask, what are some warning signs you look for when assessing a client? Or, how do you handle situations where a client's needs are outside of what you can treat?
Okay.
Your answers should show that you consider ethical implications, you recognize your own limits, and you're willing to work with other healthcare professionals when you need to.
Makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Right. What's next?
How about this one? How do you ensure that your treatments are safe and effective for your clients?
Ooh, that's a big one. This is where you really prove your professionalism and your commitment to ethical practice.
It's all about building trust and showing you're aware of the risks.
Okay.
So start by explaining your thorough, informed consent procedures.
Right.
Make sure clients know the benefits and any potential side effects of each treatment.
And I bet RoleCatcher has examples of informed consent forms and best practices, right?
They do. Their resources can help you create really clear consent procedures that are ethical and legal.
Perfect.
And their AI can analyze how you answer this question and suggest ways to emphasize how much you prioritize safety and effectiveness.
So you could say something like, I always do a full assessment looking at their medical history, medications, and anything that might be a problem. I also explain the treatment plan carefully so they understand the risks and benefits, and I get their informed consent before doing anything.
Exactly. And they might ask, what do you do if a client has a bad reaction to a treatment?
Okay.
Your answer should show, first aid, what to do if something goes wrong, and how to stay calm under pressure.
Got it. Next question. How do you approach working with clients who have chronic or complex health conditions?
All right.
This one feels a bit more sensitive. What's the best way to handle it?
I think the key is to show your experience, your sensitivity, and your willingness to work as part of a team.
Okay.
Highlight any training or experience you have in managing chronic conditions.
Oh.
And emphasize that you can adapt treatments to each person's needs while still working within a broader medical context.
Would it be okay to mention specific conditions you've worked with?
Yeah, for example, you could say, I've worked with people who have fibromyalgia, and I know it needs a multifaceted approach. My therapies focus on pain management and reducing stress, but I always encourage open communication with their doctor to make sure we're all working together.
That sounds very thorough and client-focused.
Right.
What kind of follow-up questions might they ask about this?
They might ask, how do you manage expectations when someone has a condition that might not be completely curable? Or how do you stay updated on the latest research and treatments for that specific condition?
I see.
This is where you can show your communication skills, your empathy, and that you're dedicated to learning more all the time.
Okay, we've covered a lot already, but before we move on, I just have to say how awesome RoleCatcher is for preparing for interviews.
It's amazing, right?
It's like having a personal coach. And we'll be back after a short break to talk about more of those tough questions and explore how RoleCatcher can help you craft really strong answers that show off your skills and experience.
Stay tuned. All right, so let's jump back into those interview questions.
Okay, sounds good.
This next one really focuses on that therapist-client relationship.
Oh, okay.
It's usually something like, how do you approach building trust and rapport with your clients?
Yeah, that's where those interpersonal skills really matter.
Exactly.
It's not just about the techniques you use, it's about making that space feel safe and supportive so people can heal.
They want to know if you can create an environment where clients feel like they're really heard and understood.
Okay.
So highlight your active listening skills, your ability to be non-judgmental, and your genuine empathy for what your clients are going through.
What are some things someone could say to really show that?
You could say, I think a strong therapeutic relationship is built on trust and respect. I really try to listen to my clients, validate how they're feeling, and create a space where they feel comfortable being open and honest.
That's a great response.
And remember, those little things like mirroring body language and using empathetic language can really help build that connection too.
Yeah, I read about that in the RoleCatcher guide.
It's true, those subtle cues can make a big difference.
Oh.
And don't forget, RoleCatcher's AI can actually analyze what you say and suggest ways to make your answers even better.
Really?
Yeah, it might recommend using phrases that show empathy or highlighting specific techniques you use to build trust.
That's so helpful.
Yeah.
What about follow-up questions? What could they ask?
They might ask, how do you deal with a client who doesn't want to share personal information?
Mm.
Or what strategies do you use to connect with clients from different backgrounds?
Mm.
So your answers should show that you're sensitive, aware of cultural differences, and able to adapt to create those connections.
So be ready to talk about how you make sure everyone feels included and welcome.
Exactly. And that actually leads us to our next question, which is about working with people from different backgrounds. It's usually phrased as, how do you approach working with diverse populations, including clients from different cultural backgrounds?
Yeah, that's so important, especially as the world becomes more and more diverse.
It is.
How can someone show they're committed to being inclusive?
It's about showing you understand how cultural differences can affect people's healthcare experiences.
Okay.
Talk about any specific training or experiences you have in working with different groups of people.
Got it.
Maybe you volunteered at a community clinic, studied abroad, or had personal experiences that have broadened your understanding.
And RoleCatcher has a whole section in their career guide on cultural competency, doesn't it?
They do. They provide insights into how different cultures view health and wellness, which can be super valuable when you're figuring out the best approach for each client.
So you can say something like, I recognize that each client has their own unique beliefs, values, and experiences. I try to create a space where they feel respected and understood, no matter their background.
That's a great way to put it, and be prepared for follow-up questions too.
Like what?
They might ask, have you ever had a situation where cultural differences caused a problem in the therapeutic relationship? How did you handle it?
Okay.
Your answer should show that you can navigate those differences with sensitivity and respect, and that you're committed to providing care that's fair and inclusive for everyone.
So it's about showing that you're always learning and growing in this area.
Yes, exactly. Now, let's move on to our last question for today.
Okay.
This one requires a bit of a delicate touch. How do you approach working with clients who are experiencing emotional or mental health challenges?
This one feels really important because of how connected the mind and body are.
Absolutely. You need to show you understand that emotional and mental well-being are essential parts of overall health.
Okay.
Talk about any specific training you have in mental health awareness or trauma-informed care.
Got it.
You could say, I understand that emotional and mental health challenges can have a big impact on someone's overall well-being. I approach these situations with sensitivity and compassion and create a space where they feel safe expressing their emotions.
So it's about recognizing that it's a complex issue and being willing to address it holistically.
Exactly. And remember, RoleCatcher has a whole section on this in their competency interview prep materials.
Yeah.
They give examples of how to show you understand mental health issues and that you can respond in the right way.
Wow, RoleCatcher really does provide a lot of support for every part of the interview process.
They do. They really do. And what about those follow-up questions? What could they ask about this?
Well, they might ask something like, what are some signs that a client might need to see a mental health professional? Or how do you know when emotional distress is something you can handle and when it needs a licensed therapist or counselor?
Those are great examples, and your answers should show your ethical boundaries, your understanding of when to refer someone, and your commitment to putting the client's well-being first.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of those tough interview questions now.
Yeah.
But before we wrap things up, I want to talk about the different stages of a career as a complementary therapist.
Oh, good idea. RoleCatcher had some great information on that, didn't they?
They did. They broke it down into 4 main stages: entry-level, junior, mid-level, and senior.
Right, and each stage has its own set of responsibilities and challenges.
Okay, let's start with entry-level. What can someone expect at that stage?
Think of it as your apprenticeship. You'll be helping senior therapists, observing treatments, and gradually getting more hands-on experience.
Oh, so it's all about learning the basics and getting guidance from more experienced practitioners.
Exactly, and RoleCatcher actually gives some really helpful examples of entry-level profiles.
Like what?
One I remember was about a recent graduate who was really passionate about aromatherapy and working on getting certified.
Yeah.
They were building experience by assisting with different therapies and showing they were committed to learning more.
Okay. As you move up to a junior therapist role, you start taking on more responsibility, right?
Yeah, you'll be doing things like client consultations, developing treatment plans, and even administering therapies on your own.
But you'll still have support from more senior therapists.
Yeah. Yes, definitely for guidance and support.
RoleCatcher had another profile of a junior therapist who was skilled in acupuncture aromatherapy and reflexology.
Oh, wow.
They were working with clients on their own, teaching them about holistic health practices and studying to get another certification in herbal medicine.
That sounds like a really exciting stage.
Yeah, then moving up to mid-level, you start to specialize in specific therapies and maybe even take on some supervisory roles.
Right. You might be leading workshops, mentoring junior therapists, or working more closely with other healthcare professionals.
And a mid-level therapist could also be involved in research or creating health promotion programs.
Exactly, expanding their role and influence in the field.
One of RoleCatcher's example profiles described a mid-level therapist who specialized in homeopathy and herbal medicine.
Interesting.
They were doing thorough client assessments, working with doctors and other providers, and contributing to research to make sure practices were evidence-based.
That sounds like a really impactful role.
It does, and it shows how much your career can grow and evolve over time.
For sure. Finally, we get to the senior level.
Okay, what does it take to be a leader in complementary therapy?
I imagine it's someone who's not just a great practitioner, but also a mentor, a leader, and a voice that people respect in the field.
Yes, at the senior level, you're a real expert in your chosen therapies.
Right.
You're probably leading a team of therapists, developing strategies for the organization, and shaping how the practice or clinic operates. So it's about big picture thinking, policy development, maybe even publishing research or presenting at conferences.
Exactly. And RoleCatcher gives a great picture of what a senior complementary therapist might be doing.
Like what?
Things like managing a team of therapists, being involved in policy changes, conducting advanced research, and even training other practitioners.
That's incredible. It's amazing to see how far you can go in this field.
It is. And remember, RoleCatcher is there to help you every step of the way.
Yeah.
From making your resume perfect to acing those interviews and even navigating those different stages of your career, they've got you covered.
I love that. Now, before we get to our final thoughts, let's quickly recap what we talked about today. We started by talking about what a complementary therapist actually does and that important holistic approach to healing,
Right.
emphasizing how it's not just treating symptoms, it's addressing the whole person.
Mind, body, and spirit.
Exactly. Then we went deep into those 9 common interview questions.
Yeah.
We talked about what the interviewer is really trying to find out and gave you strategies for giving really authentic and interesting answers that show off your skills and experience.
And how important it is to personalize those answers and really let your passion and your unique story come through.
Exactly. We also talked about how RoleCatcher's AI tools can be such a game changer when you're looking for a job.
Right.
They help you improve your resume, practice your answers, and even get noticed by employers who are looking for talented complementary therapists just like you.
And we even got a glimpse into what your career path could look like.
Yeah, from starting as an assistant to eventually taking on leadership roles.
Using real examples from RoleCatcher's career guides.
Now, as we wrap up, we want to leave you with one final thought that can really make a difference in that interview.
Okay.
Ooh, I like that. What is it?
It's all about owning your narrative.
Okay, I'm listening.
Think about your own unique journey to complementary therapy.
Right.
What experiences have shaped what you believe? What specific therapies really speak to you? And most importantly, what story will you tell to capture the interviewer's attention and show them you're the perfect fit for the job?
Because it's not just about listing your qualifications or giving generic answers.
Well, not at all.
It's about showing that true passion, the empathy, and that deep understanding of holistic healing that makes you different from everyone else.
Exactly. Imagine you're sitting there with the interviewer and they ask, why should we choose you? That's your chance to connect with them on a personal level, to tell your story in a way that resonates with their values and what they want for their practice.
It's like you're saying, this is who I am, this is why I do what I do, and this is what I can bring to your team.
Precisely. They're not just looking for someone who can do the therapies. They want someone who embodies those principles of holistic healing.
Right, someone who will be a great addition to their team and a compassionate advocate for their clients.
Yes. So as you're preparing for that interview, really think about your story.
Okay.
What makes you unique? What experiences sparked your passion for this field? What are the core values that guide your practice?
Because when you connect with your authentic self, your confidence will show.
Yeah, and that's what's going to really impress the interviewer.
And remember, RoleCatcher is there to support you every step of the way.
Right?
Their AI tools can help you polish your resume, practice your answers, and even get found by employers who are actively searching for great complementary therapists.
So go to RoleCatcher, check out their resources, and start creating your story.
The world of holistic healing needs you.
It really does.
That's all for our deep dive into preparing for a complementary therapy interview.
Thanks for listening.
We hope you learned a lot and feel ready to go out there and ace that interview.
You got this.
Remember your passion. Your expertise and your unique story are your biggest strengths. Let them shine through